pretenses when we first went to Kentucky. The Wes told me flat out that he was a coal miner. So I thought, wow, what a cool story. This guy's a coal miner. And then we get there, and I'm like, oh, he's an internet nerd. I'm like, oh, no, you know. So, yeah, Liz Jim said they were very reluctant to let us in.
Well, and Aaron actually said he was a janitor, too. So.
Yeah. Well, you guys have, I have some more questions, but I'll come back to those through it. You guys have any questions for the executive producer, director, producers? Anything you want to know about the film? Here you go. Uh-oh.
Don't kill them all out at once.
Go ahead, man. What's up?
Hey, so what does Wes actually do? Does he just work on the internet, basically?
He's a webmaster.
Okay.
But actually in a really strange confluence of information, he's now working in a drug abuse clinic as a pee tester.
Yes.
Which, you know, would have been grand for us to be down there when that happened, but it didn't work out that way.
Are you guys horror film fans?
Mm-hmm.
You got
probably
the
biggest one.
tattoo.
Yeah, I mean, I got Romero tattooed in, so you know, we got all the. I'm the biggest one out of the group. I'd say Kelly's probably the second.
And
but he's actually.
I'm like that. I'm like 0.5%.
So why now? You're also a Christian and have some other things going that probably don't fit the genre. Why? And you're the executive producer. I mean, you're the money behind the film. Why in the world did you want to make this movie?
Well, it's a good question. You know, I got to know. I also helped put on the film festival in 06 and 07, and I got to know Kelly and Jim through that, and had actually done a short with them called Peekaboo. Yeah, it came from like Michigan Film Festival in 06 and 07, but then I did a short with them called Peekaboo, and our relationship kind of developed through that. They approached me with this project. I am like the guy at the beginning. I had no clue who deadpit.com was. And so I listened to a little bit and kind of put a lot of trust in these two men as friends that I got to know, and they kind of ran with it. I mean, being a Christian, being somebody who's not involved with it, I had to give it a lot of thought, and it was kind of either the doors need to open or they need to close to make sure that I'm going in the right direction. And, you know, they talk about the reluctance. I remember when they first got to Prestonsburg, the first phone call I get is, "We're in trouble. Nothing's going to happen." And I'm like, okay. And Kelly just reminded me of this. I said, "Take him to dinner." He called me the next day. He goes, "We're back on track." so it was good.
You guys should be taking notes. The aspiring filmmakers.
It really happened that way. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You buy somebody a steak dinner, and all of a sudden they're
your best friend. They'll open up. They'll tell you everything.
Yeah. What other questions you guys have? Oh, go ahead.
Madison had very briefly an organized horror community. It kind of seems to have exploded, and it's going on in terms of webcasts, podcasts, that kind of thing. I didn't really know much about the history of it. Is that possible because of Dead Pit? Did they create this internet radio podcast horror community?
You know, there was Rue Morgue Radio, which if you're in the horror community, you've heard of Rue Morgue Radio. Rue Morgue Radio actually started, I think, 2 or 3 months before Dead Pit, but they're not a strictly talk show format. Dead Pit is a strictly talk show format where they do just interviews, reviews, things like that. Rue Morgue Radio plays a lot of music, and then they'll talk about a horror film in between them. So there's a friendly rivalry going on between the two of them. What's really interesting is if you're familiar with Fangoria, which for legal reasons we couldn't mention, Fangoria started their own radio show 6 months after Dead Pit hit the air. Same format, same everything. We thought that was really interesting. We wanted to talk to them about it. They told us on the day that we had set up to shoot, we had a crew in New York working. Editor-in-Chief Tony Timpone said, "Oh, you're talking about Dead Pit? I'm not giving those guys any publicity." And he canceled the interview with us.
That's after months of saying
yes. After 6
too.
months of trying to getting him to agree.
He said yes from the start.
So I think they have a big influence. I think, you know, technology has a big influence. Anybody can post what they want on the internet now or talk about what they want. And but in the community, Dead Pit is recognized as being the founders of this format. So.
And if I just may real quick, one thing that I learned through this whole thing is how big the horror genre is and how faithful the fans are to that genre. That wasn't something that I had any clue on until I got involved, and then it's like, you know, it's kind of like when Gen Con used to be in Milwaukee, you know, and all these people would show up in these costumes, and you're like, people do that? It's the same thing with the horror community, actually, and it's huge, and it continues to grow.
Right. You know, I do a weekly show, an independent film show for Wisconsin filmmakers, and people send a lot of unsolicited films to us, so we watch them. But we get some really intense horror films that are locally made, especially ones from, for some reason, from outside Milwaukee. Someone's saying they're from Waukesha. We get some stuff. I don't know what the hell's going on in Waukesha, but we get some really intense stuff, but the quality's really high, and it's very obsessive. And I don't know the genre, but I know there's all this, you know, calling forth back to all the old films and a lot of old references and stuff. It's a pretty intense scene, and my understanding now, from talking to other people, that scene's all over the country, that there's all these local horror scenes. It's a very big and independent film, because you can get away with some stuff. You can get away with it not being perfect, and that's totally acceptable. And you can't do that with a romantic comedy, because it gets bad already.
And that's what I said, how many, even if you're not into horror movies, how many romantic comedy conventions do you hear about? They don't exist. You know?
No, they don't.
But horror conventions are all over the place. They're popping up all over the place.
So steak dinner,
horror
dinner,
horror films.
So, any other questions? Oh, yes, got lots of questions. Go ahead.
How much is live or pre-recorded, that sort of thing?
The show it's live on tape. So they actually, they do the call-in portion first, and then they do the show start to finish, and insert the call-in portion in editing, and then it airs the next day. So it's not a live show as far as
Are you mostly watching them, or do they create clips, or they give real stuff, you know, so they just watch it?
I'm sorry, what?
He's asking if they play clips and stuff during it. You should check it out.
Yes, they play clips from some of the movies. They're more of discussion based, and giving their opinions and things like that, and then they'll have the interviews. The interviews are a large segment. Their shows can run up to 3 hours long. It's amazing. I mean, yeah. I mean, they'll talk as long as they have wind in them. So
you should check them out. I have listened now to some. You're like, wow. I can see why people thought the accents are fake. When you're listening without seeing them out of context, you would think they're kind of making fun.
Especially the first time, yeah.
Yeah, you're like, wow, these guys are this is.
Yeah, and they do a new show. You asked me what's going on now. They just celebrated their 200th episode.
Wow, which is insane.
Yeah, so they've done 200 shows. Every Friday they post a new show. So
I could do a local one. It'd be fun.
They would love to be here, I'm sure.
Yeah, they'd show up. It'd be fun. Any other questions? Yes.
I really like the music track. How did that come about?
Well, she wanted to know she asked how the music came about from the film.
Their music or the
music you guys use?
Yeah. Actually, the music that we did, originally we were going to go, let's go the easy route and we'll do bluegrass. And that's why you hire good musicians to talk you out of stuff. And actually, there's a personal connection. The composer is actually my brother-in-law. He's a Emmy-nominated composer out of Detroit, and he came cheap. But he talked me out of the bluegrass. He said, that would just be so hokey if we did bluegrass. He said, let's do just kind of Americana kind of music. And then, of course, we still had to do the reference to the 80s music, which the heavier stuff, which, if you notice, that represented West, or we tried to represent West with the heavier, the 80s, stuck in adolescent kind of music, where Aaron's music was more thoughtful. And that was just kind of ripping off of 80s songs,
it's interesting for me, and we talked about this in our interview as well, is that, you have to me, I'm like, okay, here's what this is going to be about. Picturing these guys getting out of bong, I'm picturing these guys being redneck. And of course, as usual with a good documentary, which I think is a good documentary, it's not really about horror films. It's not really about their radio program.
Well,
it's about them.
Right?
It's about people.
Yeah.
So can you tell more about who they, what some of the bit they are like, that you guys got to know them? Because that's what a good documentary is about.
Yeah, well, really what we did was we went on a fishing expedition the first weekend there. I'm expecting a coal miner who's doing this radio show. And of course that didn't happen. And so once we got into it, we were really like, well, we just happened, by the grace of God, we just happened to be there at the time that Aaron was going through this conflict. And he was really tore up about it, about giving up this thing that he loves to do, this real attachment to childhood is what it is, for this drug abuse counseling. And nobody in town knew that he did this. And he had some of his best friends who he would go out, you know, and they don't drink, but, you know, go out and have fun with, have coffee or whatever, had no clue that on Friday nights he was doing this. And we just happened to connect with them at that time. And so that's kind of how it came about. And we thought, we kind of said along as we were filming and working on the film that it didn't matter what they were doing. He could be collecting baseball cards.
Right.
What was important to us is the fact that he's at this point in his life where he has to make this decision. And I was hoping that that'd be something that most people could connect to, some point in their life, that they had to make a decision like that.